Go up too.
Yeah, it's up. Yeah. All right. Well, just welcome to this Google Hangout tonight. We're just going to do a bit of a wrap up of the live streaming and the social media from our state conference this year. Firstly, I guess for those who don't know what ACHPER actually is, it stands for the Australian Council of Health, Physical Education and Recreation, and it's basically the leading professional association for people working in physical education and health in Australia. So ACHPER basically exists to promote active and healthy living, and there's branches in every state of Australia. So obviously Tasmania is one of those. So this year we basically decided to do something a little bit different, a bit more proactive with our conference, in terms of how we actually presented that to other people. So yeah, we'll go to two there, Cowie. So after viewing some of the live streaming from the National PE Institute, which is a conference that runs out of North Carolina in the States, we were very, very impressed with what they managed to produce. So we did contact Artie there, and he was willing enough to give us some time and have a Skype with us and sort of tell us how he did that. Unfortunately, although his budget, like ours, had a zero at the end of it, our budget unfortunately didn't have any numbers in front of that zero. So we were unable to reproduce what Artie and the National PE Institute did. So we had to start to think about some other options. So we started to think, okay, we've got a couple of plans here. So the first one, and I'll let Cowie explain this a bit, was that we decided we would actually live stream all our keynotes that we could through Google Hangouts. So I'll switch over to Cowie now.
Thanks, Vaughan. We modelled what we wanted to do at the conference on Teach Tech Play, which is running out of Victoria at the moment. We'd sampled a version of what they've done in a Google Hangout. We held our first ACHPER Tas Google Hangout leading up to the conference to trial the facilities with the Google, streaming live to YouTube, and we were pretty confident that was a way to go, given our budgets and constraints. So we were successful in doing our first Google Hangout and thought that would be our best way to stream live at the conference. So our setup, we went in with our laptops with some webcams. We didn't give a lot of consideration to sound quality coming out of those, but our setup allowed us to really publicise what we were doing through Twitter and other social media and through our email out to our delegates and others in the lead up to the conference. So we were recognised, I guess, and watched globally through the Google Hangouts. We had people from Montreal, we had people from Chicago, North Carolina, Western Australia, New Zealand, Victoria, and even within our own state in Tasmania, watching some of the presentations as they went live through YouTube. So that was a new thing for us at the conference, and it was really exciting to see that happen and unfold during the day. The real advantage for us is that we've now got all our keynote sessions live and accessible through YouTube, which has been fantastic for us to get some views and for the presenters to share their work via YouTube and have that as a bit of an online resume, if you like, online. So in terms of using a Google Hangout, it's been really good in those instances. Probably some limitations with the technology hardware that we used, but the notion and the theory behind what we did was certainly welcomed by a lot of people, and we certainly enjoyed the experiences that went through. So just in case we couldn't get that working, we had a backup plan, and Vaughan was the master of setting that for us up at the university.
Okay, so the university basically has a facility where lecturers can record their lectures. So it basically records whatever's on the computer, so the PowerPoint slides or similar, and then the actual lecturer's audio over the top of that. So we were thinking if the video from the webcams wasn't very good quality, We could combine the very clear sort of pictures from the university system and the video, and we can combine them all together to make you know, something that probably wasn't going to be as good as Artie managed to do in the States there, but was a fairly good sort of compromise for our budget. So that was our plan. We had the Google Hangouts and then the backup plan of the university AV system. And I'll hand over to Coe just to sort of tell you about what went right with that plan.
So I guess what I wanted to do was talk you through how we set it up very, very quickly, Google Hangout. I'll just reshare my Google Plus screen so I can guide you through just a basic setting up of how that actually works. So within your Google account, you just need to click on the top right onto the your Google Plus account name. So this is our ACHPER Google Plus page. Once you're in here, you'll be presented with a screen like this. On the left-hand side, under the home button, if you hover your mouse, you'll come down to Hangouts. So clicking on Hangouts, if you're not familiar, you can have a simple chat hangout or a video hangout with anybody, but you can also set up Hangouts on Air. So clicking up the top on Hangouts on Air will bring up a new screen where you'll be able to click and see other Hangouts that exist throughout the world. And if you haven't engaged in some, there's some fantastic opportunities out there to connect with other Hangouts that are happening. You can also go and watch them after they've occurred. But for us, here's a little hover button here where you can start a Hangout on Air. Very, very simply for us, we're in here. We named all ours with our prefix, ACHPER State Conference 2014, and Dash, and the keynote. What was really great about this is that we're able to tell people what Session 1 was going to be about, what Session 2 was going to be, and so forth. So it was really good to advertise to the public what was happening in those particular sessions and what they could view. And obviously, going up to YouTube, you can get a quick description of what's being filmed. The great advantage of this is you can choose when you want to start a Hangout on Air. So scheduling one, for example, at the moment, I could schedule one for tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, and I could schedule it for an hour. That's purely an advertisement, I guess. You can choose to stop the Hangout whenever it's finished, but it gives people an idea of how long it was going to be going. We made this public, so that was a public Hangout. You can invite particular people in your circles or your friends, but as a public Hangout, that was going straight live. Clicking on share, and I'll do one now as an example, and that will go straight onto our Google Plus page, and that gives you the event page there, as you can see. A couple of things that you need to be very aware of in here that you can do. Down, if you scroll down under details, you've got a little button here called links. Clicking on links gives you 3 ways to share this particular Hangout on Air. So simply copying the YouTube address to tweet, email, or post in other social media is what we did. So we had that tweeting away a fair bit in the lead up to the conference. If you advertise the events page, it actually gives other people an example, or gives them the link, I guess, to come and join in to your Hangout. So you need to be aware of that one. You don't want all your delegates or hundreds of people that are out there watching suddenly joining in with a webcam and commenting while you're going. So copying the YouTube link is the way to go, and that's what you publicise about. But other people get access to it through here, which is fantastic. On the actual Google site here, on the Google Plus, you can add a trailer, which we've done that for our next Hangout, and Teach Tech Play do that as well. So clicking on trailer, it brings up another screen, and you can add a photo, you can add another YouTube video. So if we wanted the ACHPER logo, it has to be a certain size, as it's popped up on your screen to get that. So it takes a little bit of work just to get the right picture on there. But that is the basics of what we did to set our Hangouts up. We set up a Hangout rather for our first 3 sessions, and that's quite a lengthy video that Vaughan's had to fiddle with on YouTube and put some chapters in there. So we let that one run because they were pretty much one after the other, rather than having 3 separate sessions all going, one after the other. We did a Google Hangout for Vaughan and for Nathan Horn and for Jay McPherson, and we ran those concurrently off the same account, which we weren't quite sure if that was going to work, but having been through it, it worked a treat, and we had 2 different YouTube videos going live. That worked out really well. So yeah, setting it all up, streaming it live, advertising, that all worked really neatly, and yeah, we'll probably follow that version of events in future. However, there was quite a few things that we thought we'd get better at. So I'll hand over back to Vaughan to kick us off there in our bit of review of where we can get better.
Yeah, so you can see that this slide probably has a bit more writing on it than all the others, and there's obviously a bit of a reason for that. So just to sort of go through each point, some of the things that definitely need improving for next year. So testing equipment. So we did test out the sort of main laptop and webcam that we used, but when we were filming Jane and Nathan's sessions concurrently, unfortunately the laptop and webcam setup that was filming Nathan sort of had a lot of audio problems for the first 25 minutes, which was a real disappointment because obviously Nathan, having the sort of global profile and reach that he has, there were quite a few people tuning in to actually watch his presentation. So that was really disappointing that we stuffed that up. The second one there, keeping the conference on time. So some of our early keynotes, even though they were excellent, did go a bit over time, and as we were sort of running the conference at university within semester time, some of our sort of bookings for different lecture theatres in between other lectures had to sort of be, I guess, condensed, and those presentations had to go a bit quicker just because we got there late and we only had that set time. Our backup plan of the university AV system, I guess this sort of links into the fact that we were a bit rushed because we weren't on time initially, but that system actually defaulted to mute. So most of our sessions we don't actually have any audio. We've got all the presenters' slides perfectly clear, but most of the audio we don't actually have. So that means, for instance, Nathan's session that we stuffed up on the webcam, we could have just used that audio, but that audio doesn't exist because it defaulted to mute. So that's something we obviously need to make sure that we are very very particular in looking at next time. Some of the last ones there, just the evening program. We hadn't really thought about recording anything at that program. We did have a couple of keynotes and a motivational speaker who were all excellent, but certainly next time to be able to record their presentations and put them up on our YouTube is something we'll definitely try to do. And the last one there, IT support. So Cowie does actually teach ICT, so he's fairly savvy, but I'm probably ICT useful at best. So certainly running all these Google Hangouts, looking after Twitter, doing the overlays over the various presenters, and better put a shout out to the Nerdy Fizzetta in Melbourne there, who did actually let us know that we'd sort of left the old overlay on the new presenter there once. And certainly, even at the start, I had to be up there sort of pressing play on some embedded videos that weren't working in PowerPoints and stuff. So there was just a lot going on for Cowie and I. So next time, we are thinking that we'll actually get some sort of IT support, whether that be people who'll actually just come and run the Hangouts or look after all the presenters and their PowerPoint difficulties, etc. Because one of the things that we probably were planning to do more of were tweetaways, which was another idea that we got off Artie and the National PE Institute. So we certainly owe Artie a bit in terms of his generosity of time, but also his good ideas. So thank you very much for that, Artie. But yeah, so we had some tweetaways throughout the day where delegates had to sort of tweet in and answer a question or post a video or a picture, etc. And we just sort of we still did sort of 4 or 5 of them throughout the day, but we were planning on doing more. But just in the midst of doing everything else, that just became something that sort of fell away a bit towards the end. So we certainly do want to improve that for next year because that was quite engaging for our delegates.
If I can add to Vaughan there, one thing that caught me on the hop filming Nathan was switching to a webcam. I was planning on using my own laptop cam and a quick what are we going to do, and realising that my webcam wasn't working. My internet cam on my laptop wasn't working. Had to switch to a webcam, and unfortunately the sound switching off threw us a little. So yeah, rule of thumb would be to make sure it's all completely tested and working as you want it before we get on there, which was a lesson learnt. And as Vaughan said, having live tweets telling you what was going on from a few people out there was very much appreciated to get that right. The same thing, and Vaughan mentioned there on the evening program, and we had our motivational speaker. She asked for us to film her for a bit of assessment and feedback, and that caught us on the hop on the night, and we weren't quite prepared, and we threw to the cam on the laptop, and unfortunately that didn't quite work. Just got a bit of feedback there, Vaughan. Hang on a second. I'll just mute you for a moment. Yeah, and that didn't quite work, so the audio was completely unhearable, I guess. So yeah, we lost all that great speech by Jess Gallagher. So that was a little disappointing. And then on reflection, one of our keynotes, Rob Carroll, his talk about Maribyrnong College was fantastic. But to miss out on that and not have that recorded is a bit of a shame, because he had some great messages to sell. So yeah, a few things to get better. And as Vaughan said, I think in future having a social media team that's just purely in charge of tweeting during the day and facilitating the tweetaways, and then having your IT team who are purely responsible for filming would be the way to go, because we were both sort of tweeting from the ACHPER Tas account, and we're also filming through the Google Hangout. So it was a fair bit to concentrate on for a long period of time, and having those two separate teams operating through the day would be fantastic. Yeah, so that's, I guess, testing the equipment, making sure we're running on time, and advertising to people when we're running things is pretty essential to make sure it's a polished conference. And I'll go back over to Vaughan if I can re-mute you. Are you back there, Vaughan?
Yeah, I'm back on now. That's all good. Yeah, I was just thinking in terms of some of the conference feedback we got back. Sort of relates a bit to what you said about having your social media crew and your filming crew, because one of the feedback that we've got so far was a person that didn't actually attend the conference, but they just watched it all online, and they were very supportive of us trying out this sort of new use of technology, etc. But they did they likened the film work to a student pirating the conference from the 6th row of the audience, which I thought was a little bit harsh for some sessions, but probably completely justified for others. So yeah, certainly having those two different sort of sets of people in charge of those two different areas would make that a lot easier, because those filming people could get to the room or the lecture theatre early and sort of set up and make sure that they had a good spot and people weren't in their way and sort of bumping and knocking them throughout the presentation. So that would be a definite thing that we'll be doing next year. So I guess talking about next year, obviously this was a very new process for us to try and stream it live, and obviously, like anything live, has certain risks to it, but we'll certainly try and do it again. In terms of our actual format, we'll probably talk to other people and obviously try and find something better this year than our sort of combination of Google Hangouts and the Uni AV system, or at least do that better next year. I guess we're sort of certainly keen to get our stuff out there and share for the benefit of everyone, but we're also sort of aware that we do want to encourage increased membership in our organisation. So we are sort of having debates about, do we live stream it and then password protect it, or what do we actually do with that content? Because at the moment it's just all there on YouTube for everyone to see. So we'll be having future discussions about that, but we'll definitely be streaming it again next year in some form, and we'd really encourage other conferences around the world to do the same, just so that everyone can sort of learn from each other. Without, certainly it's not obviously possible for everyone to get to all these great conferences all around the world, but yeah, if we do live stream it, then at least people can access some of that content.
Cool. I'll just build up on Tweetaways. Vaughan mentioned earlier. This is an idea that came out from Joey Faith and the National PE Institute, that we'd run some Tweetaways during the day, try and engage our audience a little bit more. So Vaughan and I had fleshed out a few ideas about how we could do it, and we had a bit of a quick scaffold, sent it off to Nathan Horn over there in Singapore, and he'd actually talked to Joey the morning, the week before the conference, about the ideas and actually getting people to engage with Twitter and use it for, I guess, its power, rather than just simply tweeting comments back around the conference. So we changed our mind about how we'd go around the Twitter. So we had a massive uptake. We had, I think, 30 followers on Twitter. We're now up to 230. So within a month, going from the lead in and then the week after the conference, we've had a massive uptake in PE teachers in Tasmania, having a Twitter account, and then also following the ACHPER Tas account. And they really did engage through the conference, and it was fantastic, and all the feedback's coming through has been brilliant, and the post tweets to ACHPER Tas and the ACHPER Tas account have been terrific, and yeah, really excited about how that's taking off at the moment. So our Tweetaways evolved from a simple tweet to ACHPER Tas and the hashtag PhysEd to try and engage the global community. We had the next one, we flowed through to sharing a picture of the conference. We had members only Tweetaways to encourage those that were there who were an ACHPER member to get a Tweetaway to put something up. We had a resource sharing Tweetaway. So that was really, really effective during the day, and each Tweetaway was met with a $200 voucher. So that really, really hooked people in as well, to use for a sports firm that were sponsoring the conference. So massive uptake by the PE fraternity in Tasmania, sharing and engaging through Twitter, and the majority of people that won a Tweetaway or tweeted during the day hadn't actually previously done so. So there were multiple eggs being tweeted to ACHPER Tas throughout the day, and really looking forward in the next week to doing a short video on how to hatch the egg and put the profile picture up on your account, and also to expand your profile so people know who you are and where you teach, so get a bit more globally connected with those that are out there in the wider community. But in terms of engaging in a conference, I would think there'd be nothing better than running a hashtag throughout the day and getting some tweets happening. We also ran a hashtag for a question and answer with one of our keynote presenters. That wasn't as successful. Might have been the content that was presented or people's knowledge of the content. So probably a few factors involved there, but precedent set, the hashtag continues to be tweeted to after the conference, so we're really, really happy with where we're at the moment. I'll just activate Vaughan's mic again and see if he's got anything else that he'd like to share in regards to Tweetaways.
Yeah, it was certainly a new thing, and like Curry said, we were really happy with that we did it. Obviously, like we've sort of talked, we did have some issues with some of the live streaming, and obviously that affected some of our social media. But in terms of us just having a go at something completely new that we'd never ever tried before, the conference feedback we've got back so far has been predominantly very positive. And that's as much to do with people like Nathan Horn being willing to come all the way from Singapore to present. Obviously, he is sort of UTAS alumni back in the day, but for him to come back, and also other people from Victoria, we had Jane McPherson, Rob Carroll, Jude Maguire, Janice Atkin, multiple people coming from interstate to present, and that's certainly built what we think is a very high quality conference and something that we can build on in the future.
I guess just as we wrap up there, folks, if you've got any feedback for us after watching this video, you can tweet any of those three accounts on the screen at the moment, and you can also hashtag ACHPER Tas in your tweet. If you've got any feedback around our conference about how we can improve and ideas for the future. So thank you for listening, and hopefully it's been informative for you and you've got a bit of an insight into how we organise social media and streamed our conference in 2014. Any final thoughts from you, Vaughn?
Yeah, I guess I'd just really like to encourage other people to have a go, because obviously we had a go. It worked out okay. There were some things to work on, but we're really happy that we did have a go, and we're certainly happy to answer questions, or if we've got suggestions from people that can suggest things that are better than Google Hangouts but on a similar budget, we'd certainly be very interested to hear those. But we just really encourage you to have a go, and we're happy to help you in any way that we can to sort of do that live streaming of your conference and get that content out.
Excellent. Thanks, Vaughn, and thank you, everybody, and stay tuned for some more Google Hangouts by ACHPER Tas.